Welcome back, Defenders. Russia has serious problems in Crimea. Ukrainian drone strike sets fire at Crimean oil depot for the second time in a week. This is the Feodosia oil terminal in occupied Crimea. Ukraine successfully struck it last week. The terminal burned for about 3 or 4 days. Ukraine waited for the Russians to put the fire out. They then struck it again. And these pictures and videos online, I'll link them down below. But this looks like the end of days. This is a massive, massive oil depot fire. And there's nothing the Russians can do. This is the satellite image from last week after the first attack. In the first attack, Ukraine successfully got maybe 5 of the containers. But as you can see, there's still 5 over here. There's still 10 over here. So Ukraine went back to finish it off. At least 5 tanks hit. Ukrainian drones spark massive blaze at Russia's largest oil terminal in occupied Crimea. Here's the satellite firms data showing where the fire has spread. And yes, when oil leaks into water, this is the Black Sea, water can catch on fire. This is a massive, massive oil depot fire. Russia's largest oil terminal in occupied Crimea, still on fire 2 days after Ukrainian drone strike. This strike occurred 2 nights ago, and the fire is still going. It's still burning. Nobody knows when it will be put out. This is the video I found as of this morning showing that the oil containers are still ignited. They're still burning off. This is massive. So what's the good news for Russia? And that's a double rainbow. Rainbow, rainbow, with the oil depot fire in the background. Good job, Russia. 2 months later, Russia still can't clear a single destroyed train in occupied part of Zaporizhia. A Ukrainian drone strike on August 19th left a fuel convoy wrecked and the only railway in ruins. If you remember, this was 2 months ago. Ukraine used drones to strike a fuel car. This was in Zaporizhia. This was 2 months ago, and apparently the Russians have been unable to clear it. According to open source intelligence, satellite imagery from the Copernicus platform shows that the destroyed train remains lodged on the tracks. It is blocked, the only rail line in the Russian-occupied parts of Zaporizhia since the attack. So here's the railway map, and you can see, I think this fuel car was struck here. Ukraine did something to the track to get the fuel car to stop. They then launched drones to destroy the fuel car. This was a massive fire in Zaporizhia. And I'm guessing that Russia can't clear and repair the track because it's so close to Ukrainian-controlled territory. With fiber optic FPV drones, if Russia sends out repair crews, serious machinery, it's just going to get blown up. So effectively, Crimea and Kherson has been isolated from the rail network from Donetsk and Rostov-on-Don. Technically, I think the rail line for the Kerch Bridge is still operational, but when it was damaged 2 years ago, it wasn't fully restored, and it's not really safe to operate. So I don't think Russia sends heavy train loads over the Kerch Bridge anymore. But if Russia can't move fuel by rail, then they were reliant on ships. They were shipping oil to Feodosia to supply all refined oil products to the Crimean peninsula and probably also Kherson. So now that Ukraine has successfully cut off this rail link, the Kerch Bridge is still not 100%, and now they've destroyed the import terminal in Feodosia. This is going to make Crimea and the Kherson region run out of fuel. They're already running out of water. All agriculture has stopped. But now this part of the map, they can be resupplied with fuel trucks, but this just at scale is not efficient enough for the Russians. The shortages in these regions is going to get worse. It's never going to improve. These are the pictures and videos going viral online every day. And I do read the comments, and I'm getting comments from people saying, Jake, this is getting repetitive. In every video, you just keep showing the same thing. But yes, this is how we win, guys. This is going to play out slowly over months and months as Russia's reserves continue being depleted and ordinary Russians wake up. and they realize how screwed their country is. Let me play this video for you. This is in Belgorod, once again showing a gas station that just got resupplied with cars lining up to fill up their tanks.
Яна, для тебя я снимаю. Ты спрашивала, где есть бензин. Вот, есть тут, но проблема в том, что это вот все, это туда.
So whoever made this video added clown music, but yes, you can see all the cars in Belgorod lining up hoping to get their gas rations. In the relatively large city of Belgorod, its population is about 300,000 people. This Russian is in Moscow and he has access to fuel, but he's upset about the price. He thinks that ordinary Russians are being screwed by private gas stations. So let me read for you what the average citizen of the capital city of Moscow now feels about these fuel increases. You know what, friends? I want to talk to the gas stations that are privately owned, like the URTK filling station we have in the Moscow region. With the current fuel shortage, these gas stations seem to have way too high an opinion of themselves, in my opinion. They have jacked up the prices. Why did you decide that you're such badass guys and can raise prices like that? Huh, I'm just curious. That's crazy. Why the hell are you raising prices like that when there is such a problem in the country now, that there is a fuel shortage? You know what problems this causes. Why are you profiting from this, huh? You know that people will be forced to buy fuel at such prices. Shameless jerks. You need to be whipped, damn it. You should be lined up in front of your gas stations, have your pants taken off, be bent over, and be properly whipped in front of honest people. So this Russian man in Moscow wants to take off people's pants and whip them. Russia mulls price caps at gas stations. Expert warns of mass out-of-stock signs. There's all this talk about price controls. Russia's Federal Anti-Monopoly Service has been asked to impose maximum prices at gas stations as fuel shortages worsen across the country. This is according to the pro-government media outlet. But you can't do this. Alexander Talavera, professor of financial economics at University of Birmingham, told the Kyiv Independent that a price ceiling without subsidies could worsen the shortages, with refinery output constrained by Ukrainian strikes, forcing retailers, especially independent ones who buy on the open market, to sell below replacement cost would mass out-of-stock signs. Retailers and vendors are not going to sell at a loss. That's how you lose money and go out of business. So if they want to introduce price caps, then the Kremlin is going to have to offer subsidies to these retailers to compensate them for their losses. Or else they're just going to stop selling. If you're told to sell at a loss, you're going to hide your inventory. You're either not going to sell at all, waiting for the limits to go away, or you're just going to sell on the black market for an even higher price. This will just make things worse if Russia starts introducing price caps, which they could end up doing this by maybe January or February if they start getting desperate and the people start rioting. Going back to Crimea, this is actually critical. Here is the Rybar. This is a pro-Russian source showing the strikes on Feodosia. But Ukraine also struck a power station in the Crimean Peninsula. They struck the Tavary power plant, in addition to the Simferopol combined cycle power plant that supplies 25% of the electricity to the Crimean Peninsula. This is what we've been watching over the last 3 months. All of these drone boat operations to take out radars, take out air defense systems. Ukraine spent weeks, months, clearing the path to go after that oil terminal and to go after these power stations. Crimea is already not getting any additional fresh water. They lost the canals when they blew up the Novokakhovka Dam. So there's no agriculture happening on the peninsula. They're not growing food. They have water reserves that are running out. And now they're going to be without electricity. I think this is Ukraine's determined path. They're going to continue striking the energy infrastructure of Crimea until it's just impossible to live on the peninsula. Ukraine wants all the Russians who have relocated there to go back to mainland Russia. Get off the peninsula. This is the only video we have showing the Simferopol electrical substation on fire. It's clearly on fire in the distance. I can link this down below. In addition, Russia's Belgorod issues a blackout warning amid missile strikes and claims. Ukraine, I think, also is going to continue attacking the electrical infrastructure of the city of Belgorod. Once again, this is 300,000 people, but it's just too close. It's just too close to Ukrainian territory for the Russians to properly defend their energy infrastructure. In addition, Belgorod is effectively one large military base. The Russian military uses this city to resupply their frontline troops and launch attacks. Russia is still attacking in the Kharkiv region, trying to push deeper into Ukrainian territory. This is fair game. If you're a resident of the city of Belgorod, you're probably not going to have heat, electricity, or running water this winter. That's just where we are in the war, guys. And the Russians put out this crazy video. This is from the Ministry of Emergency Situations. And I'm going to play the entire clip. This is pretty hilarious.
Если ты услышал жужжание в небе, похожее на звук газонокосилки, и увидел силуэт примерно на высоте 100 метров, возможно, это беспилотный летательный аппарат. Срочно ищи укрытие. Это может быть любое здание, подземный переход или паркинг, или большое дерево, которое защитит вас от осколков или ударной волны. В квартире ни в коем случае не подходи к окнам. Осколки стекла могут поранить. Если ты находишься в здании, по возможности спустись на нижние этажи. И если ты в автомобиле и прямо перед тобой пикирует беспилотник, тогда останови автомобиль, покинь его и найди укрытие. При взрыве ложись на землю и закрывай голову руками. Не поднимайся после первого взрыва. Лучше аккуратно отползи или откатись в сторону. Ни в коем случае не распространяй фото-видео беспилотных летательных аппаратов в социальных сетях. Возможно, это поможет противнику выполнить корректировку и нанести удар заново. Запрещается при нахождении в непосредственной близости от упавшего БПЛА использовать радиосвязь, мобильный телефон или же устройство с GPS-навигацией. При обнаружении БПЛА ни в коем случае не прикасайся к нему или его частям. Они могут быть ядовитыми или взрывоопасными. Срочно покинь это место. Звони по номеру 112. Здравствуйте. При разговоре с дежурным сообщи ему полную информацию, время и место обнаружения БПЛА. Экстренную информацию об атаках БПЛА ты можешь получить в мобильном приложении МЧС России. Будь бдителен и осторожен. И помни, безопасность начинается с тебя.
This is all solid advice to survive a drone attack. But we've gone over the last 4 years from the Russians saying we're going to take the capital city of Kyiv in 3 days to how to survive a Ukrainian drone attack. In this video, they gave the advice, do not go near windows, which is always fantastic advice in Russia. A lot of people die falling out windows in Russia. Other bad news for Russia. Technical failure forces Russian Black Sea Fleet submarine to surface in the Atlantic. NATO responds with a frigate surveillance. This is the Russian submarine, the Novorossiysk, and it's currently surfaced off the coast of France. It wasn't supposed to do this. There's something wrong with the submarine. According to Russian military telegram channels, they're reporting that the submarine's fuel system is damaged and leaking directly into the hull. There are no repair parts or qualified specialists on board, and the crew is unable to fix the malfunction. The serious accident has led to other problems. The fuel accumulated in the hull is an explosive hazard. The source believes that the crew has no choice but to start draining the hull directly into the sea. So there's a fuel leak going into the hull, and the crew has to drain the hull so their submarine doesn't explode. Russian Navy denies technical malfunction forced the submarine to surface near France. You can't believe something's true until the Kremlin denies it. But more than likely, this submarine is limping home. It's trying to make it back to Kaliningrad, but it's going to run out of fuel. So Russia's going to have to send out a fuel ship, or a repair crew, or a tugboat, or something. But we're going to be able to laugh at this limping submarine probably for the next couple weeks. Russia is likely helping North Korea with their submarine development. This is according to South Korean intelligence. And yes, the North Koreans are desperate. So are the Russians. That's why they're helping North Korea. But if you're North Korea, do you really want to put your faith in Russia's submarine technology? This is what a typical Russian submarine looks like. This is what a typical Russian submarine looks like in Crimea. And even when Russia's trying to show off, this was the incident in the port of Havana, Cuba last year. Russia sent one of their submarines to try to intimidate the United States, and even their best submarine on parade is still missing acoustic panels. They can't properly maintain their own submarine fleet, and it's falling apart. Frontline reports Ukraine's kill zone takes shape in the Sumy Oblast. Russians trapped in Yunakivka say all hope is gone. In the comments section, people have said, Jake, why don't you give more frontline updates, frontline reports? And I just don't think anything significant has been happening. Yes, every Ukrainian soldier life matters. Every inch of territory is important. But big picture, nothing is moving. Nothing is really changing. If you want really good frontline updates, I recommend the YouTube channel Reporting from Ukraine. It's now called RFU News. But I can give you an example of what I see every day. Ukrainian assault units liberate Mali Sherbaki in southern Zaporizhia. So Ukraine retook this small village and they had soldiers holding flags. But let me show you on the map where this is. So here is Mali Sherbaki, and here's the map update. Let me share this map update with you guys. There it is. Do you see the map update? I can zoom in. You know, if you zoom in far enough, then a map update looks significant. But this isn't going to affect the outcome of the war. The fact that there aren't many map updates when Russia attacks every day, this actually shows that Ukraine is winning. Russia expends resources far greater than Ukraine. They lose way more soldiers than Ukraine. They attack every day. And they still are nowhere near close to getting the entirety of Donetsk 4 years into this war. They're not going to take Konstantinivka this year. They're not going to take Pokrovsk this year. They're not going to take Liman. They're not going to take Kupiansk. It's just a meat grinder. This is how bad it is for the Russians. They've stopped using tanks because they're running out of tanks. Russia's tank reserves are running out. Satellite data shows that out of 7,300 tanks stored before the war, only 92 T-72 tanks remain in decent condition. The others, thousands of them, these are T-64s, T-72s, and T-80s. They're just rusting after having been stripped for parts. This is the old Soviet stockpiles, 20,000 tanks in storage, and Russia's been cannibalizing the pieces and parts to keep their current tanks going, which all just eventually get blown up in Ukraine. And then there's the meat grinder. Russia is looking for additional tactics to keep jamming men into the meat grinder. And this is a report from Kremlin State TV about their new draft system. This went into effect on October 1st. Men of military age being conscripted are just going to get a message on their official government app, which they have to check all the time. And as soon as they're summoned for military service, they lose everything. Their passport won't work for them to leave the country. They can't drive. They can't take out loans. And they're basically a fugitive until they turn themselves in. And this is what they report on Kremlin State TV. If you're not an actor or rapper, it's becoming more difficult to avoid mandatory army service when it's due. What are we talking about? Today, the press reported that many men who received electronic summons on the Public Services app got the following message. Here, look, traveling abroad is prohibited. This new measure took effect on October 1st. Now, if you don't show up at the military registration and enlistment office after receiving an electronic summons, the restrictions will be imposed automatically. There are different restrictions, such as driving a car, obtaining loans, and what we just showed you about going abroad. You can remove these restrictions only when you personally come to the military registration and enlistment office, and fully repent. Repent for not wanting to die for Tsar Putin. All hail Tsar Putin. What is Russia's strategy to win this war? And these headlines. Drone strike sparks massive fire at clothing warehouses in Odessa. The fire destroyed more than 5,000 square meters of warehouses containing fabrics, clothes, shoes, and sewing equipment. Russia just indiscriminately targets and blows stuff up, and they think they're going to win this war by depriving Ukraine of sewing equipment. They blew up a hummus factory in Kyiv last week. How is Ukraine going to win this war without hummus and sewing machines? It's all a tragedy, guys. I'm trying to make a joke here, but it's so comically stupid, and I understand there are civilians suffering, people who own these businesses. And that's really what Russia is doing, just trying to cause maximum discomfort and pain to as many people as possible, because militarily, they don't know how to win this war. Russia defeats tons of humanitarian aid. UN convoy struck in the Kherson region. This is a UN convoy that was going to the city of Kherson to provide toiletries, hygiene products, food, and Ukraine, the Russians with FPV drones, blew up the trucks. This is a report from a frontline reporter with the convoy. I can link this video down below, but it's just indiscriminate bombing and killing, especially in the Kherson region. Anyone alive, any car that moves. Russia is now targeting everything with FPV drones to depopulate the region. Russia launches 1,360 bombs and 92 missiles on Ukraine in a single week, while global attention is drawn to the Middle East. Zelensky warns Russia is exploiting the lack of attention on the war. This was a big week for the Middle East, and I'm happy, guys. I'm happy that the hostages were released by Hamas. I'm glad that humanitarian aid is getting into Gaza. I want to see the dying and the fighting stop. I hope there is resolution. I hope there is peace. Anything positive that Donald Trump did? Great. I hope he does more of it. We need more pressure and better diplomacy to prevent wars, but stop the current ones. So this is what Ukraine and Zelensky is focused on this week, because we're trying to build momentum in Trump's mind. Zelensky urges Trump to broker Ukraine peace. Okay, so there's a Ukrainian delegation going to Washington, D.C. this week to meet with lots of people. Zelensky and Trump confirmed plans to meet in Washington on Friday. So we're getting another Oval Office meeting. Trump's in a good mood because he's happy about Gaza and Israel. So I think Zelensky sees this as an opportunity. What does Zelensky want? And of course, he wants Trump to announce at the White House on Friday Tomahawk cruise missiles. Now, I don't think this is going to happen, so don't get your hopes up. And this really is just from a logistics reason. The Tomahawk is a sea-launched cruise missile. Yes, a couple years ago, the Army adapted it for ground launch. But how many batteries of trucks exist in the United States Army, and there's two. There are two batteries of trucks capable of launching Tomahawk cruise missiles. Do you really think the US Army is going to give these up, sell them to Ukraine for use against Russia? There are other launchers that have been designed, but none of these have been used in real-world combat. For the US military to give these to Ukraine and expect them to succeed with them, it's a long shot. It's still possible. Trump is very irrational, and if on Friday he demands the US Army send a truck to Ukraine to launch Tomahawks, then we'll take it. We won't ask questions. But I think Zelensky, more than actually getting tangible deliveries, this is about propaganda. Zelensky wants to make himself as close to Trump as possible to drive a wedge between Russia and MAGA. I think Zelensky is very smart and he understands the politics, and he knows that the information war being fought, we can't have MAGA and the Russians getting along, cooperating. Ideally, we want them fighting with each other. So Zelensky is willing to say and do anything to make Trump like him. And he's actually been very effective the last couple months. Trump hasn't been attacking Ukraine, and Trump has been saying nice things about Zelensky and Ukraine. And this is reflecting in the polling data. Republican support for arming Ukraine increases as Trump weighs Tomahawk shipments. This is a Harvard-Harris poll that was conducted this month. The survey found that 73% of Trump voters believe the United States should provide weapons to Ukraine and impose sanctions on Russia. So when Trump is attacking Zelensky and Ukraine, Republican support goes down. When Trump says nice things, Republican support goes up, even though nothing has changed on the battlefield. It shouldn't be this way, but Trump is a cult leader, and the cult just does and thinks whatever he wants. Trump calls on Congress to investigate 2019 hoax impeachment over Ukraine. This was the phone call between Trump and Zelensky that led to Trump's first impeachment, and I think Trump wants something. He wants Zelensky in the White House to say that Joe Biden was a terrible president, and it was a perfect phone call. Trump did nothing wrong. Trump has always been amazing and the best. And if that's what Zelensky has to do to get additional help, he's going to do it. And I support it. At this point, guys, Zelensky should just say and do whatever he can to manipulate Trump, because this is what Trump wants, to help, to impose sanctions, impose tariffs, increase deliveries, do whatever. But if you watch this channel, you know the roller coaster ride we've been on the last 10 months, even going back 2 years to when Trump was blocking military aid, and Ukraine lost the city of Avdiivka because of that. And Trump was dumb enough to say this. Trump says Witkoff had no idea about Russia and wasn't too interested before starting peace negotiations. Trump is in Israel, and he was rambling in a speech, and he was dumb enough to admit this to everybody.
We'll get that one. But I set up a meeting for him to meet with President Putin, thinking it would be a 15 or a 20-minute meeting. Steve had no idea about Russia, had no idea about Putin too much, didn't know too much about politics, wasn't that interested. He was really good at real estate, but he had that quality that I was looking for.
So Trump says that Steve Witkoff didn't know anything about Putin, didn't know anything about Russia, and wasn't interested in politics. And that is who Trump sent to go negotiate and end the war. I've been saying for 10 months that Steve Witkoff is an idiot, and Trump just admitted it. Yes, Steve Witkoff is an idiot, and he has wasted everybody's time the last 10 months. Well, tens of thousands of people have been dying the last 10 months. He sent an absolute idiot to waste everyone's time. We're not going to forget this, guys. We're not going to forget this. Last two videos I have for you. The first one is fun. This is a Moscow resident who lost her GPS in her car. Moscow is experimenting with GPS jamming to stop drones, and I guess if you have GPS on your phone, your navigation system isn't going to work anymore. So this is a woman in Moscow freaking out in her car because her GPS on her phone stopped working.
Короче, снимают видео такие, типа, я не знаю, как ехать, поэтому я доеду до Твери, блядь. У меня сегодня была встреча, блядь, я вся нарядилась, я не могу доехать, потому что этот блядский навигатор не работает в центре. И что вы думаете, я просто час нахуй ездила вокруг Кремля, я не могла, блядь, повернуть, куда мне надо. И я реально, я не могу просто в обратную сторону, блядь, поехать не могу, вот, чтобы вы понимали, я херачу, блядь, к МКАДу, чтобы развернуть. Мне надо, короче, вот туда, а я не могу, блядь, туда поехать, потому что я не понимаю, где тут разворот. Я понимаю головой, что, наверное, надо уйти куда-то влево или вправо, потому что, ну, явного, естественно, разворота на Тверской его просто нету. Но я кружусь и в итоге заблуждаюсь. Да пиздец. Я просто час ездила, чтобы вы понимали.
The GPS navigation in her car stopped working, and this woman declared that she was officially in hell. Yeah, I think the residents of Moscow and St. Petersburg, once they're without fuel, once they're without electricity, once they're without affordable food, they're not going to be very resilient. They're not going to handle it very well. Let's end on a positive video, and this is once again from Ilya Ponomarenko, showing what fall looks like in Kyiv. This is the Taras Shevchenko Park. It's a really nice park. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.